What's going on, guys? First things first. I mean, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
You know, it's the New Year's 2022, which is crazy.
Yeah, it is.
It felt like June of 2021, like 2 weeks ago. The Keep on Keeping on podcast. This is like episode 3. And we're really happy to be back. And I mean, the first thing we kind of wanted to just tackle, obviously, is we're in the new year.
Resolutions.
Those 2022 goals.
Yep.
How do you maintain those goals? How
Yep.
can we keep those goals, right? Because a lot of people, like myself included,
all
these
of
are
us
my goals for
included.
2022. You know, I'm going to start going to the gym more. And then
just
like
seeing,
mid-January, you're kind of like, all right, I'm
right,
and
so
then it's hard, you know, keeping that consistency.
100%.
So
fall back into old patterns pretty
Yes.
quickly. That motivation doesn't last as long.
And man, now it just kind of popped to me right now, seeing how fast time goes.
Yeah.
Just makes me really like think in perspective of like, if you just stay consistent, the time goes by so quick that you might think that those results might take forever, right? Let's say for example, just working out is you think, eating clean for 4 months straight. Damn, that feels like forever. But
that time's going to come regardless.
And it comes so quick.
And it comes quick.
And what kills me is when you look back and you're like, wait, I said this 4 months ago. What if I had just stayed consistent for those 4 months?
With it, yeah.
Like, where would I be right now? Yeah. That could be applied towards anything.
Consistency is the biggest, I guess, determining factor in people's New Year's resolutions coming to fruition.
For sure.
A lot of people, they get into this hype of the new year, and and it's a necessary hype. It's a fresh start. It's like a renewal in a sense. It's like chapter 1 of a new year. And why not make the changes that you want to make? But the issue comes when people stray away from that. And they fall back into old patterns, like the motivation leaves. And somebody might be good for a month, might be good for 2 months, but all of a sudden, like, they see an ad for something, or they go out with their friends and somebody gives them like, you know, like, here, have this drink or have this, you know, meal or whatever.
Let's
and then
order
all of a
pizza.
sudden you order pizza and you can't say no in a certain situation. Then like you know, it sort of compounds. You're like, I'll have this will be my cheat day. And then it carries into the next day. Like, it was, you know, I just had a meal yesterday. My cheat day is 24 hours. So let me eat it now. And then that becomes one day becomes 5 days. It becomes a week. And then you fall back into your old patterns.
Yeah. And next thing you know, you're kind of like, I'm back to my normal, just like.
You just don't feel motivated to do it again. You're like, I'll wait till a Monday, or I'll wait till the next month. And
it's that constant just
that
pushing it back. Next thing you know, you're like in May, June, and you're like, crap, what if
half the year's gone, and you realize like, hey, had I just stuck with it, where I would be at. But it's hard. It's easier said than done, you know, like when it comes to consistency, because like motivation is not, it doesn't last. So you have to kind of be pulled in a way to making that commitment to yourself. David
Goggins says it best. He's like, he thinks motivation it's bullshit. Like it's all about just discipline. Like you have to look 100%. At it as like, just like 100%. Like a hard ass. You have to just be like, no, fuck motivation. I just need to be disciplined. Yeah.
Kobe talks about it. He talks about like negotiating with yourself. It's like, you know, when you wake up early, or you set that early morning workout and you wake up and you don't want to get out of bed. It's that negotiating. Like, you know, you could sleep a little bit more. You could take the next workout, or you can work out a little later, or whatever the case may be. But it's like that self-negotiation where you should be like, no, like, I already set the term for myself. We're waking up, we're putting in that workout at 5 a.m. Like, that's it. Yeah. We're getting up.
Just that building that calluses in your mind, basically. And it's tough.
And honestly, bro, like, you build self-confidence when you do the things you say you're going to do.
Every time, yeah.
Like, a lot of it, like, people always ask, where does self-confidence come from? It comes from, like, preparation, being prepared, obviously, like, putting in the work. But it also comes in by doing what you say you're going to do.
Yep.
Like, by making those promises to yourself. Like, if you say you're going to, you know, for example, make your bed every single day of the week, and you don't do that, your mind's going to be like, oh, you're a liar. You know what I mean? Like, oh, you don't really mean what you say.
Yeah,
so
like
then you don't believe in what
subconsciously.
you say. Your brain just tells you, like, you don't mean that. That's not real. You're not going to do it. And then you feel less motivated to do something else, because your brain's just going to give you an example of something that you did before that didn't pan out because you weren't consistent. So I think that's huge.
It's true, man, because it literally, when you set out something and you do it, you're kind of like, all right, I did that. What else can I do? I did this. What else can I do? And it's just kind of like that domino effect.
You look at like the most successful people in the world, like their first recommendation will always be like believing in yourself. And then that belief comes from repeatedly doing what you're saying you're going to do. And you believe in yourself more. And then like you avoid this kind of PTSD of like, you know, you didn't do it before, so like you have a hard time believing it in the future.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, I'm gonna lose so and so pounds this year, but you're like, oh, you didn't do it last year, or you didn't do it the year before that, or you didn't do it the last time you made this promise, and then you beat yourself down. When in reality, at like any moment, you can decide that, look, I'm gonna change my life. That's it. Whatever happened in the past is the past. The past does not have to equal the future unless you live in the past. You know?
Yeah.
If you constantly are going back to things that didn't work, you're gonna see more of things that didn't work. And if you believe that things will work, and then that like whatever the past was the past, and you're gonna make a change. See, it takes like a moment to make a change. It may seem like it took years to get to that moment of change, but it takes a moment
where you just make that decision.
You make that decision, like no more, like I love you, or I quit, or whatever you know, whatever it is. It just takes a moment to change the course of your life.
That's true, and because it's interesting what you're saying, how that builds that confidence, because it's happened to me so many times where like I tell myself, I want to eat clean, like low carb, just eat really clean for this period of time. And at first it feels like, like what's the point, right? Yep. But like once you get past those like first 2 or 3 days, you're kind of like, okay, like I'm 3 days in now. I can keep doing this. Yeah. And I remember, and it's a perfect example because I hit like a little over a week of eating clean. Yeah. Not only did my body feel good, but like I felt more confident. I was like, damn, like my body's feeling better. I was starting to notice already in a week just certain little differences. And you build a confidence like, man, I stuck with this for a week. And what happened was I had a birthday. Yeah. I think it was like my mom's birthday or something like that. And it was like my cheat day. It was my cheat day because it was my mom's birthday. You know, it was like an Italian restaurant. I was like, all right, fine. And what was a good feeling is I felt like I earned that meal. Yep. You know, I felt like I earned it. I had the pizza. Exactly. I had and I felt great.
Which there's nothing wrong with cheat days. Yeah. There's nothing because you need
as long as bouncing back.
Yeah. It's making sure that you stick with it as a one day or a cheat meal, whether that be one meal or a cheat day where it's just one day and it doesn't carry over.
And this is that example because like I felt great because I was like, I earned this meal and I ate it and I was like, and I didn't feel guilty. My body actually felt kind of like, it didn't feel as bad. Yeah. I don't know. You take it differently. Yeah. And I felt good, but then that was perfect, right? And after that is when I should have been like, all right, now let's go back. But for some reason, I just slowly, like the next day I was like, oh, I'll have this
leftover,
and day after day, I just kind of slowly started falling back into a normal eating habit, as opposed to that strict.
I'll give you my example of like what made me realize like eating well was, beneficial was like I'd put in a week of working out, and I'd put in like a week of like eating really well, and I realized my level of soreness at the end of the week was not the same when I was just eating whatever I wanted to eat. Really? It was just drastically different. And then, like you said, when you put in a week of like eating clean, you start to see results. And then you don't want that result to fade. So like you're willing to do anything.
You get like addicted. Yeah.
Exactly. But then, so I'd done the detox. It was 21 days. After 21 days, I was like, I'm going to reward myself to a cheat meal. I rewarded myself to a cheat meal, and then one meal turned into like another meal. And then
what'd you get? What was your cheat meal?
Taco Bell. Oh, nice. Taco Bell's always my go-to cheat meal.
Taco Bell hits the spot every time, man. Those quesadillas. Oh. But that's exactly it. Like you start like, but the quesadillas.
Bro, you'd start negotiating with yourself like, I could get back, but just one more day is not gonna hurt. I just did 21 days of
you
super clean eating.
You earned the cheat meal. It's just being like, okay, now time to refocus.
Yeah, like
that's
keeping that discipline.
That's the discipline right there.
That's all it is.
And that's so interesting, but like that could be applied towards anything. Like, right now we were just talking about Spider-Man before this. Yeah. And like I saw the Spider-Man movie and all that, and I just really got like this motivation, or obviously I want to get into the filmmaking. That's my thing. And watching that movie and seeing like what an experience it was for everybody watching. Yeah. Seeing it 3 times in theaters and seeing just what a crowd pleaser it was.
How it moved people.
It
like
moved,
an art form moved. Massive individuals.
And it moved me, and I just started thinking about like my goal of trying to become a filmmaker, a director, making movies, and trying to have just to be in that realm and soak that in
for others,
and the discipline, and just thinking of like how can I be more disciplined, or what thinking of my goals for this new year, and I started having a lot of like doubt, You know, it's of course, right? We always have the doubt, and I just started having a lot of doubt. Like, damn, like how do I get there? I even started. This is a really bad rabbit hole, but I went down this rabbit hole. Spider-Man got me in a whole mood, man. Like, it was so good.
I agree with you.
And it got me through this state of just like thinking of my career, how can I be in that position, and working with people like that, or whatever, you know. And I just started, you know, going down this rabbit hole. I think a lot of people go through is like I started almost like comparing. I was like, man, like Tom Holland is my age. He's 25 years old. Yeah. I started thinking about that. I was like, this kid who's a Spider-Man fan, like all of us, you know, we grew up watching like the Tobey Maguire movies and then the Andrew Garfield.
Or even if you didn't watch the movies, you were a fan of the comics way before the movies even came out. You know, you had the toys.
Exactly. And imagine just growing up watching these movies and you're living your dream of being able to act
as that.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's so huge. I just put that.
It's crazy you mentioned that. I went through a similar thing with the whole Spider-Man thing. After seeing it, it's inspirational also, and then it almost invokes a sense of like, and it's not bad. You guys just gotta check it. It's like an envy in a way.
I don't know.
It's like you check it.
A lot of people are going through it. Is it like a post-Spider-Man depression? Is that what people are calling it? Some people. I read comments like, you know, watching videos and people are like, I feel like I'm going through a post No Way Home depression. And maybe it's that. And it's that good. Yeah. And I started thinking about that. You start comparing like, man, this person at this age. Yeah. And it's, I don't even know if it's envy. It's more of just like.
It's comparison.
Yeah, just
but comparison. Like, but comparison, it invokes. Like, envy and inspiration are just inches apart. Like, it's not necessarily from a bad lens. It's more like you reflect on yourself and like, why am I not there at that point in this point in my life? It's not, you know, it's not necessarily like, oh, why does that person have it?
Fuck that guy.
I hate that guy. Like, not necessarily from that lens, but like, it invokes that like almost inspiration in a way. Like, how can I create something great? But it's hard to be like comparing your chapter 1 to somebody else's like chapter 20.
Yeah, that's what I try to tell
Or whether
myself.
You're on chapter 5 versus somebody's chapter like. Marvel is chapter 100, you know, and anybody can get to chapter 100. They just, like we said, you have to stay consistent. You have to build that discipline. You have to put you have to put the time in. Yeah. And then obviously there's grace and there's opportunity and things that come randomly that can expedite your process. Yeah. For somebody like Tom Holland, like we don't know what his journey was leading up to him becoming this Spider-Man or whatever.
And that's what I like to do. I like to people I look up to or anything like that. I like to look up like, okay, how did you get to that point?
How did you get there?
How did you get there? I always, funny enough, the other day, there's like a YouTuber I watch, he's Den of Nerds. He does like, because again, I saw Spider-Man, so I was watching a bunch of videos on on YouTube, and his videos are really great. He has like a good, you know, community and established base.
Right.
And the first thing, because we always look at like the final product, and like how good. I'm never gonna get to that.
Great, yeah.
And a part of me was like, let me look at his oldest first video.
Yeah. And
I hit the little filter and I put from oldest to newest. And he started 5 years ago, and I looked at his first video and I saw the quality difference. Yeah. Very bad quality, like that starting quality. He didn't even have a mic. It was just him in his room talking through like the camera mic. It was very bad quality. And I just started like, that gave me that sense of like, man, like you see like everybody starts in the same place.
You'll never really see somebody's chapter 1 that's being glorified. It'll always be their end. Or not even their end, like whatever that is for them. Like whatever, it's their
peak, pivotal moment.
Yeah. Moment. And we won't see like what the original starting spot was. Exactly. So that's why it's nice, at least for like YouTubers and people that content create, you can actually go back and see. Yeah. At least for the people that don't archive their stuff. Like, you know, there's a lot of people that just, you know, now I'm this, so let me just delete all the old stuff. Yeah. But for the people, like, at least as far as YouTubers go, you can always go back to, like, that original video or the original starting spot. And it's a nice, like, inspiring moment because like, I saw a meme just last night, which was like, don't worry about what the end looks like. Just do. If you start, like, things will start opening up. You'll meet the people that will put you in a better position. You'll put yourself in that environment, and then one thing leads to another, and all of a sudden, you know, like everybody who's made it, who's done something, they always look back and they're like, it was all that. It was a couple things. It was believing in themselves that this dream is worthy of achieving for me, and it was just putting in that work on a day-to-day basis and sticking with it. And things unraveling, and then meeting, one thing leads to another, and you meet a person that leads to, you never know.
I have a perfect example of this. Because,
Yeah,
again, I've been doing this a lot since
Yeah,
Spider-Man. I know. Another person, Kevin Feige, producer of all the Marvel movies. And I was watching a behind-the-scenes making of WandaVision. Because, again, I've been watching makings a lot and just all this stuff. I've been really inspired. And I was like, how did that guy get there?
Yeah.
The biggest producer of all time. We didn't know his name until now. I was like, how did he get there? I started looking him up. I started watching videos, and he did an interview, and he was talking about how he started in the business. He started getting into film, and he applied, to go to USC in California, University of Southern California, and he got rejected 5 times. And he just kept applying, and he said until he's like, the grace of God, they accepted me. I guess they needed an extra body. Yeah. And he did his thing, and he graduated, and he got an internship at the Donner's company, which is the director of the Goonies.
Okay.
He had his own production company with his wife, and he got an internship there. And with that internship, then he got like a little receptionist job. Yeah. And then from that he got, this is over a course of maybe like 4 years or so, 5 years. Then he got like a PA job. Mm-hmm. And he's just working at it. And he said PA job, he was literally running around, like getting coffee, like just bare minimum work, and he thought he had made it. He felt like he had made it, And during that, just kept working at it. They eventually got him to an associate producer position, which is like a starting position for a producer. And he just working his way up, and he produced some of the Tobey, Spider-Man movies and stuff like that. And then he met the CEO of Marvel. I don't know if he's still the CEO, but at least at the time, he met the CEO. Marvel back then was a little office. They were going bankrupt. Marvel wasn't what it is now.
No, of course not.
And they were talking about comic books and all that. And the CEO was actually really impressed by this. Him. And he took him in and hired him at Marvel to become the head of Marvel.
Oh, jeez.
That was he graduated in 95. That was in 2000 when he got hired for Marvel. Then we got some Marvel stuff at the time. We got the Tobey movies or the X-Men. Yep. 2000, I believe, 8 or 9. I think it was like 2008 was when we got the Iron Man.
Yeah, when Iron Man came out, 2008,
that kicked off the MCU. Yeah. Hence, him becoming the biggest producer of all time. Yeah. And just working as a receptionist, production assistant.
If you look at it from 95 to 2008, just 13 years. It's like that saying, you got to put in the 10,000 hours or the 10 years to become a master at anything. We don't know Tom Holland's 10 years, 10,000 hours to get to being Spider-Man, what we see today.
Just small roles. He was doing smaller roles. And
probably started when he was way younger.
Oh, yeah. He's been acting. Yeah, super young. And he just obviously auditions for Spider-Man. They were accepting our applications, and he got it. And I do think he was meant for the role. Yeah, I think
so too. I think even Stan Lee says Tom Holland was his vision of what Spider-Man was.
He embodies it, both aspects of it perfectly, and it was just and it's just a perfect example of just the different paths. Yep. I mean, Kevin Feige right now, he's 48. He graduated in 95. In 5 years, he was able to get a position at Marvel. But also thinking of the risk. He took the risk.
No, of course.
Marvel wasn't a secure thing. They were going bankrupt. Superhero movies weren't the thing at the time. They were.
Or even him applying 5 times
to USC.
USC. He had a vision for what he wanted out of life, and he was not gonna. And I'm sure even he didn't see.
He just kept applying.
He didn't see in his mind. He obviously maybe wanted to be a producer, but he didn't see I'm gonna be this head of Marvel or this and that. He just didn't know that was going to pan out, but it panned out. It just
happened. And he didn't even know he wanted to be a producer at the time. That's the funny thing. He was into filmmaking. Yeah. And when he got that internship, he noticed on the wife's side, Miss Donner, she was more of the producing aspect, and then the husband was more like the director. He would direct the Goonies and stuff like that. And just naturally him learning and seeing these things, he was like, she seems to be doing a lot of cool stuff. She's always working on all these movies because she was producing. Yeah. And that kind of drove him towards the producing side. And then that's where it just started going. He said it just going up the ladder and working
I think
hard.
A lot of it is also just trusting the process. because what you think you might want out of life may not be what you need. And like for something like that, like he didn't know he wanted to be a producer. He just liked filmmaking.
Yeah.
If you have like a vision for what you want out of life, just pursue that, and you never know where it's gonna take you.
It's true.
You know, I didn't think we would be building a podcast in 2022. That just wasn't, didn't really think much of it. I knew I wanted to get into like that space though. Like I knew I wanted to speak on things and have that voice.
Yeah.
And I knew a lot of people like would ask me, like I would make these long captions and be like, oh, you should, write more. You should talk a little bit more about this type of stuff. I didn't know how it would pan out, but I knew, we shared mutual interest. You already run another podcast. So I was like, it just made sense. And we got here. We're on episode 3.
And we had gimmicks like of just when you were on my other podcast.
Yeah.
We kind of caught each other like
doing
talking
this,
for hours and hours about this.
But when we talk about like social media and like
just
its
the
influence
usual
on mental health and
stuff.
stuff,
And
it just panned out to here. You just never know. And we're nowhere near where we want to be. We're still, the whole point of the podcast is to keep on doing what you're doing in pursuit of your vision of what you want out of life. And to not give up. I think a lot of people, things don't go their way for a week or for a day or for a month or whatever that time frame is, even a year. And then they just fall back and like it's not worth it. And no, like you have to be like, no, it's worth it. I'm going to chase it. And whether that means you have to take up a job or you have to take up 2 jobs to make sure you support your vision, but still take out time for that vision and not fall into the same rut of I'm going to work, I'm coming home, I'm drinking a beer, I'm watching TV, going to sleep, doing the whole thing over and over again. It's doing work, coming home, and then building on that vision somehow, some way, and then moving forward. I think that's very important because a lot of people, like, they get caught up in their rut and then they just go from milestone to milestone. It becomes, I'm working now I got a girlfriend, now I got to propose to my girlfriend. Certain time passes obviously in between, but I got to propose, now I got to marry, now I got to support her, I got to support me. Like, what am I going to do pursuing my vision?
My dreams seem unrealistic, yeah. That's
Other
true.
people have it easy. This person,
got lucky.
Whatever the excuse that you make, there's everybody that there's people that come from worse off situations that have done everything that you want to achieve. And if they haven't, you could be the first one to build that path for somebody else. That's what I believe.
That's so true because you could get caught up in that. It happens to me.
Yeah, of course. Life will put you in like a situation where you feel like you have no other way than to just be stuck in a rut and not follow. Because, bro, dreams, like if you look at it, like you said, like there's risk.
Yeah.
You could spend years and not have that certainty of knowing that it's going to work out. It's just what it is. But if you build that certainty within yourself, that I'm just doing what I need to be doing. And then it pans out.
There's this filmmaker, again, because I've been reading up on all these people. I just read this yesterday, and he was talking about what it takes to make it.
You do this, and I find that similarity that I do the same thing. If I'm watching a movie and I see that I really resonate with somebody, first thing I'll do is I'll look up their Wikipedia. When did they start? What was their early life like? What got them into? And you'll be astonished by reading people's. There's a quote from Kobe Bryant that said, "There's power in learning about others' journeys to help your own or to manifest your own." And it's true.
It's so true.
It's like you have these muses that you don't even know are muses, but you see that they've done really well, and then you can read up on them and see like
just how they got to here, how they got to there, and
exactly.
This Damien Chazelle, he young director. He did Whiplash. I don't know if you've seen Whiplash.
I have seen Whiplash.
And then he did La La Land and all these big movies. And he started off, just trying to make movies. He had a script for La La Land. It wasn't getting produced. Yeah. So he started working on this other one, Whiplash. And it wasn't happening. Nobody was taking it. And one of the producers gave him advice, and they said, why don't you take a scene from that, make it into a short film, and like show that, put it in a festival, and to give producers an idea of what the movie is like. Because, obviously a movie about a jazz drummer is not something that producers are going to be like drawn into. And so he did that, whatever, and he did his thing, and that ended up, it became a huge hit on the festivals, and they wanted to produce the full movie. It won at the festivals, and they produced it. And he was talking about how and then La La Land, he won Best Director. He was the youngest to ever do it. He got it at 32.
Savage.
32 years old.
Savage.
He got the youngest to get an Oscar for Best Director.
Wow.
And he was talking about how you can get 1,000 no's. All you need is one yes.
You just gotta be right one time.
That's all he would say. He's like,
that's so
you have
true.
to just be persistent, but also listen.
Yeah.
You know, he was saying he was arrogant at times.
Yeah.
And he listened to the producer's advice about just make it into a short film, get a piece of it, make it into a short film, and then add to that.
Yeah.
And he listened. He took that advice, and it worked. And he was saying it's just 1,000 no's. All you need is one yes. And that propelled him to, because then when Whiplash, did great at the Oscars and it did amazing. Then they're like, oh, what else do you have? And he's like, well, I got this La La Land script.
Yeah.
Then he did La La Land, and La La Land became what La La Land was. Yeah. And now he's in the business. He's established.
He just needed, This reminds me of the Sylvester Stallone story. I don't know if you've heard this Sylvester Stallone. He's 30, struggling actor, needs money, gets so bad that he has to sell his dog at the local gas station for like $100.
That's crazy.
His dog, he loves this dog so much, he has to sell his dog. And he's just sitting, like, times are bad, and he finally writes this. He sees this boxing fight, I think of Rocky Marciano.
Okay.
And he sees this fight on TV. He sees that he's kept getting knocked down, but he keeps getting up. Writes the script for Rocky. And pitches it out to different film. Like, he's trying to be an actor at this point, but it hasn't gotten anywhere. But he's written this thing. He's now going to studios, like, here.
Yeah.
And then, he gets an offer for, like, the studio loves the script. He's like, gets an offer for like $100K, but he's like, no, I want to be the actor. I want to be the main guy. Studio's like, no. Goes somewhere else, pitches it again. Somebody says, we'll give you this much, but, you can't be the actor. He says, no. Finally, like, time passes. The studio really likes the script so much. They're like, we'll give you $15K. You can act, but we want the script also. Takes it. Or no, sorry. He gets, like, I think it was $30K.
Okay.
He gets $30K for the script. He can finally act. He negotiates it down to like $30K. You can act, whatever. Studio says yes. He goes the next day to go and get his dog. He goes to the gas station day after day after day. Finally, he sees the guy who has his dog. He's like, yo, like, I just want my dog back. I'll give you $1,000. The guy's like, no, it's my dog now. Like, what are you talking about? Like, yeah, I'm not going to sell you my dog. He's like, you know what? No, but like, I really want this. So finally, he works it up to $15K. And the guy finally says yes. Like, okay, fine. And eventually, that guy and his dog end up making a cameo in the first Rocky movie. And that's how, Rocky becomes Rocky. Sylvester Stallone becomes Sylvester Stallone. Now you have Creed movies coming out.
Yeah, it's a whole brand.
And he himself is a whole brand. Like, he's Rambo, this, that.
Mm-hmm.
Just bet on himself.
That's incredible.
He just bet on himself. And I think...
You think the dog recognized him?
I think probably.
I'm thinking about it. That's incredible, man.
Probably,
you look at, Arnold Schwarzenegger, everybody
they
for
say
Hollywood.
Arnie's story is funny. He made his first $1 million in real estate before he even became an actor. But he had a struggle too, because he came to Hollywood and they were like, who's gonna hire you with that name, with that
funny accent,
like, who's gonna? And then he would go and work, and then he'd take acting classes at night. Like, he was hustling, all while lifting.
Yeah. And what I respect
really
is that mentality.
Become successful if you think about it, like, until his 30s, mid-30s.
That's crazy.
And you look at somebody like a Tom Holland, who's at 25, he's already amassed this level of success, and he's probably gonna amass more. That's not to take away from Arnold Schwarzenegger at 25 when he probably wasn't anybody.
Different times too.
Different time zones.
Different times, because I'm so sure. If Arnold was getting successful today, let's say if he was making like a Terminator today, I'm sure his pay would be so much more.
Oh yeah, 100% in terms of
that aspect of it.
But I think it still would have taken him that time to become who he was.
Because he had this journey. He was like this lifter first.
But even then, he had to go through it. Like, if you think about it, if it had been given to him a lot earlier or a lot sooner, or just given to him, he probably wouldn't have turned out to be Arnold Schwarzenegger.
And what I love is that just the mentality that I think he has. A lot of Sylvester Stallone or The Rock. It's whatever they're tackling, they want to be the best at it. He tackled like lifting, right?
Yeah.
Like weightlifting and the competitions, and he won. He was, what was it?
Mr. Olympia.
Mr. Olympia.
Like a bunch of times.
Yeah. Then he's like, I want to get into Hollywood. and he tackles Hollywood. He becomes the biggest action star.
Yeah, exactly.
And then from there, he's like, I kind of want to get into
government.
politics.
Yeah.
And then
governor of California.
And he just tackled all these things and
different
goals
things,
that he wanted and did it. That's so
It's underrated
amazing.
when you can just give up so easily now and just choose something else.
He could have just retired as an actor. He could have stopped there.
Could have been like, that's all I'm going to be is a weightlifter, a bodybuilder.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
And he would have.
Like you see today, like bodybuilders, they do the bodybuilding thing, but they're also building mass followings on YouTube. They're like, this is my day in the life of eating, or like, this is my lift for today. And like hundreds of thousands, millions of people are watching these videos. So I feel like there's so much opportunity, and you just have to believe in, you just have to bet on yourself. It's a cliche saying, but you have to like, I believe in my vision, my dream, whatever it is going to manifest no matter what. I'm just going to put days.
Just have like that
together.
Killer instinct. Yeah. It's just, there's no other way to put it.
It really is that.
You just got to tackle
It's what I want, and I got to get it.
It's interesting. And I was talking yesterday to one of my supervisors at work. I think I wanted to mention this to you. I was on my break, right? I was eating, and of course just overthinking about, what we were just talking about, right? Like I was like, my career, like where do I want to go? Am I running out of time? I started thinking all these things.
Yeah.
And I'm there eating, and then he comes and he sits next to me. He's, oh, is it okay if I sit? Yeah, sure. This never happens because we usually eat on different times or whatever. And then we just start talking because he's into like music and he asked me about my filming stuff, whatever. So we started talking. And I kind of just started venting, like, yeah, man, I'm just, like when I have a lot bottled up, it just kind of comes out. I was like, yeah, I just, with the filming stuff, I feel like I'm running out of time. I'm not sure what to do or what my correct path is. I just started saying all these things.
Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah. Am I doing the right thing? Should I be doing more? Should I taking, all these things? And then we were talking for a bit, and he's like, man, like, and he asked me how old I was. I was like, I'm 25. He's like, Justin, you have so much time. Like, you're so young.
Yeah.
He's like, and it kind of stuck with me. He was like, you're so ahead because you're young and you know what you want.
Yeah.
And he's like, that's something that a lot of people here, because we were sitting in like a break room with a bunch of employees. Like, that's something even a lot of people here don't even know or go their whole lives not knowing.
Yeah.
And he was like, some people don't even know to look.
Yeah.
That's and crazy. That hit me. That hit me. Crazy. Like, and that's so true. You have people that go to the everyday life and they don't even know. Like, they have the feeling of like, I'm not really happy, but they don't even have the thought to look.
Yeah.
Or that awareness to be like, what do I like to do? What? And that really hit me,
David Goggins said something like, most people live lives of quiet desperation. Somebody said that.
Yes, I've heard it.
Like, I don't know. Constantly go through life just hoping, wanting that something's going to change the course of their life and they become everything that they want to be. But that's crazy that he said that, because it's exactly true.
Yeah.
That you're like, bro, you're 25.
Yeah.
And like, I used to think of that thing from a basketball standpoint of like, am I doing the right thing? Do I have time? And I used to think like, basketball is a smaller window than say filmmaking. Like filmmaking, you could really do this at 89, 90 years old if you really wanted to, Imagine the experience and the level of knowledge you're going to have about filmmaking at 89, 90 and growing through this technological change that's happening.
Yeah.
Bro, it's almost a guarantee for that to happen. Like for life to turn out that way, given, you live to be 90 years old, given you continuously work towards this dream of yours by 80, 90, like if you really think about it, like that many years, you're bound to be successful.
Yeah.
It just has to happen. If that makes sense.
That's exactly what he was saying.
And him coming to sit next to you is like, that's grace.
Yeah.
Like you said, it never happens. For him to sit next to you to vent, and for him to be that person that gives you the right type of advice at the right time, that's grace.
No.
That's like one of those moments where like, like I don't know what people believe in, and I'm not going to force any beliefs, but like that's like God was speaking through him in that moment, telling you like, yo, you're good. And to not take that advice lightly and just be like, oh, it was my supervisor telling me what it was like literally life telling you you're on the right path and that you're doing the right thing, and that like it was literally the right message. When people are like, oh, they're looking for a sign, that was a sign.
Yeah.
It's
really weird.
And you don't really think, because things like that happen also to me and you think like you sometimes overthink it to like, oh, it was just a conversation in passing. Oh, it was just a moment, or like, but sometimes we let those signs that are actual signs just go. And they're signs to tell us like, hey, you're doing your best and just keep with it, stick with the path, and you're going to turn out the way you want it to turn out. It just might take a little longer. It might take a little, you never really know, right? You might meet somebody this year that can expedite the process for you 5-10 years. And you never know.
It's
like,
true.
You know, it could just be a person. It could be an opportunity. It could be a short film that you do that just expedites everything.
No.
I know there was this girl on social media that had been putting out videos for like 11 months about kind of similar stuff, like self-development, stuff like that. And just a couple weeks ago, went from, I think, 2,000 followers, and now she's at 22,000 followers. She was just putting out reels every single day, self-development reels. All of a sudden, 22,000 followers, 23,000 followers. That compound effect of like having that content there, and then like it just blew up.
It takes one.
It just, exactly.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm sure for herself, she has like a larger vision than just 22,000 followers, but it's a part of the process, and it just happened. Like she just got to 22K. Now from 22 to 100 is a lot easier than going from 2,000 to 100K. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Same thing, like where you might have a short film this year that might blow up, and all of a sudden you're requested to do so many more different ideas. And you're called or you're hired or this and that, and all of a sudden you have so much on your plate that you wouldn't have even imagined.
Yeah.
It's all possible.
It's really interesting. I don't know. Life is weird because, you know, things like that happen, and, you know, you just kind of like, whoa, okay.
It's almost trusting that you're being guided, and no matter that, everything that is happening in life is happening for you, and you may not understand what it is in that moment, but looking back, you'll know why it happened. You know,
it's interesting.
Like you don't know why something bad is happening or why something's going wrong or something's not panning out the way you want it to, but like when you put in the work and all of a sudden you make it and you look back like, oh, I needed that to happen for it to. Most of our problems come when we feel like it's not happening as quickly as we want it to. That's most of the doubt, most of the frustration, because if you really access like the core version of you that really wants acting and filming, and it's for creativity. It's to express who you are as a person. It's to express your love of a craft. It's not any of the superficial stuff that makes sense. You know?
Yeah.
It's not necessarily the reward of a lot of people. It's you constantly doing what you love to do and doing it in a level where a lot of people are impacted by what you do.
Yeah.
But that core essence of it is that creativity, the love for the craft, you know, like you see things that other people don't see when it comes to filmmaking or when it comes to writing or when it comes to that world. And it's more so appreciating that than it is appreciating maybe what the feedback is, you know?
Right. Yeah, it's...
Because the feedback will come. But as long as you constantly access like your core true essence, which is just the love of
just
art,
doing the thing.
art,
yeah.
you're going to be fine.
It's really interesting, man, like how... Like, if you let it, like, the universe just kind of guides you in a weird way, you know? I was at a point maybe a few months ago where, I thought I was going to get promoted at my job.
Yeah.
And I was working really well at my job or whatever. And I was doing great. Like, things were just happening for me. They're like, hey, you're working really well. They gave me, like, employee of the month, all that stuff, whatever, right? But then, like, school wasn't going like too well. Like school was going, but it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. Like teachers were okay. I was like, whatever. Yeah. And so I'm at a point where I think I'm gonna get like a promotion for this job, right? And so I had to make a choice of, okay, do I take this promotion, but it's gonna be full time. It's gonna be like a supervisor position. How is that going to affect me with school or my other stuff, my podcasting, my aspirations basically. And part of me, I was like nervous about that because I was like, am I taking like that plan B route or whatever? So I thought about it. I was like, I'm going to do it. I'll make the extra money and I can apply it towards my stuff. 100%. And I feel like that was me like convincing myself. And so I tell him, like I took a couple of days to think about it. I was like, I'll do it, right? And funnily enough, that same day, from what they told me after, but that same day that I mentioned that, someone else had applied as well. Like that moment, I'd said yes.
Yeah.
And then obviously more qualified, whatever. And they told me, oh, Justin, like we found someone else, whatever. And at first I was like upset because I was like, I mean, you guys asked me, like, whatever. And that same weekend, so they tell me that. Then the next day or two is when I start filming for my short film that I did for school. Yeah. And it was right after that. And I go to film, and again, I'm like, all right, let's go film. My class. At this point, I was a little discouraged. Mm-hmm. And I go to film, and I have such an amazing time filming. It was hard. It was exhausting. Yeah. But I had that spark again. Yeah. That spark I always talk about. Yeah. And it was an amazing feeling. I was like, this feels amazing. Like, I can actually do this as a career. Yeah. And that weekend, I filmed the whole weekend. I collaborated, and then we filmed another short film the following. And I was like, oh.
This is what that is.
Like, and now looking back, I was like, the universe literally said, hold on, steer this way.
And like you were having trouble making the decision, but the universe was like.
And it's almost like if I made the wrong decision.
That's what I'm saying. The universe was like, hold on.
Yeah.
Go back this way.
And like, it's awesome. Literally like the universe was like, wait. Let's go this way. Like, stay what you're doing. Yeah. Like, this is clearly not meant to be. Just keep going this way. Because it was like that bad news that I thought. Then right after
was redirection, really.
Was that just that reminder of like, this is what you love to do. Yeah. Don't, tarnish that. Yeah. And then I got that. It was such a great feeling. I was like, oh my God, dude, I love this.
I got to find that feeling.
And then
more
that
often,
same weekend I filmed. I had a great time. It was so much like fun, even though it was exhausting for anybody else. It would be like, dude, how do you like this? But like, it was just so fun collaborating. And a lot of I feel like my, like positive like features or characteristics that I like to use in work. Like I like communicating with people or working with, like I was able to utilize all of it in this position, this field. And then that same day I filmed, I was having an amazing time. I went to go see Dune. It was opening night of Dune. Right.
Of course. The
great movie. Yeah. So I'm filming. I have an amazing experience. And then I go see this movie that same night, like at 9:00. And that movie's amazing. Yeah. And then that just instilled more inspiration on me. Like so much. I saw that movie like 3 times in theaters.
It stacked on the...
It just stacked. All this in the same, like probably less than a week.
Hey, this is what you're supposed to be doing.
I don't get the promotion. I don't get the promotion. Maybe a day or two after, I'm filming, I'm getting this experience. It's an amazing experience.
That's beautiful.
That same night that I film, after I film, I go to watch Dune.
Movie. Wow.
I get from a filmmaker that I love, and I get this huge, another wave of inspiration. Yeah. And then the actor that's in it, he's my age. That's Timothy Chalamet. Yeah. He's 25. I get that other, Yeah. But I wasn't even thinking about that at the time. I was just like, all these different things of like, and another wave of inspiration. Like, damn, I want to do that. Yeah. This movie's so good. Like. And that director, Denis Villeneuve, is one of my favorites. And I got to watch that. It was so good.
So dope.
And then the next day, we filmed day 2 of filming. And that was an even better day. We got shots and we got so many things. Yeah. And all this within 3 or 4 days. Just promotion. I don't get the promotion to filming. Yeah. Watch Dune, get inspired even more. Then film again. And that weekend is done. And I was like, what just happened? And I remember going back to work being like, oh, like, why am I even here? Yeah. Because I wanted to go back to that moment. Yeah. And since then, I just haven't looked back.
That's a great point you've made, is just take note of the signs.
It's so crazy
that life gives you. Life will reinforce you when you're doing what you want to be doing, I think.
Yeah. It's so crazy how that happened within.
That's beautiful though.
And now looking back, I'm like, wow, dude. Like, it's almost like,
can't believe you almost took the supervisor position.
Yeah. And I
at that moment, it was probably like, you were making a rational decision. You're like, yeah, I should probably.
And what's even more crazy? The supervisor I spoke to
was that
was giving me advice was the one that got the job. Isn't that weird?
That's insane.
And when we talked, he was telling me, he was like, yeah, man, he's like, you're young. Yeah. Like, he didn't know he was into music. He didn't study music in college. Yeah. He did something else. And he's like, I wish I did, just because it was earlier in the game and I would have learned. But he ended up learning it just later. Like he kind of got into it later on. And he was telling me, like, you're young, man, just go for it, you know? And it's so weird because this whole story I just told you about, this promotion, all that, he was the one that had applied that took the position away. And I completely understood. He was qualified, whatever. Yeah. And it's just weird. And then here he is telling me, like, keep going.
Keep doing your thing,
Yeah. Wow. You know.
That would have never happened had he never gotten the job.
That conversation or where I would even be. Exactly. Like maybe I would start leaning towards.
Maybe you might not have done that short film the way it would have worked out a little different. You might have had other responsibilities. Maybe
at this point, I probably like I that was my biggest fear. Like, oh, what if I take? But I don't have time for my things. But I guess me just trying to like convince myself, like, no, I'll make the time and I'll figure it out. You know, but. You know, full-time and part-time are two very different things, very different. You know, and staying late. And, it was just very weird. And he told me, he's like, you know, some people stick with, like, that plan B route or, you know, and they kind of don't pursue it or they meet someone and that holds them back or that job that you feel. And he was just giving me all this advice. I don't know. It was really weird. It just kind of came full circle.
In that moment, wow.
You know, it was really weird. And this is like the last 2-3 months, you know, because that was in October when I thought I was getting the promotion. Like at my job, it seemed like I was like, wow, like this is really, you know. And I feel like what I learned from that was like if I can take that work ethic and just those qualities that I bring to a business and just actually apply it to
what you want,
what I'm interested or what I want, you know, like. Obviously, I apply it to, you know, the podcasting or filming, but also finding that studio like a Kevin 100%. Feige, that workplace that
100%.
With like-minded people that I can bring those qualities. I'd be able to launch up in that business
100%.
No time.
100%.
And that's something I think I learned, like looking back now, because it's like, oh, but why would I get all these opportunities here? It's just looking back, like look at the value you bring here. Yeah. Imagine bringing that value.
In your studio,
in a studio place 100%. And starting small and moving. I don't know. It was a lot that I just that comes in, but it's just those things of the universe just guiding you in its own weird way.
Fact.
It's crazy.
I feel like that's a great spot to end the podcast.
Yeah, right. I mean, that was a long, but like, no, but it's, you know, it was weird.
People need to hear that. People need to hear to trust their instincts, and like if a point on the New Year part is just. Understand that, you know, you're being guided throughout the year. Whatever's happening in life, you may not understand it in the moment. You'll understand it like maybe months later. You might realize like why it needed to happen. What was the purpose behind it? And to trust that and to trust the signs. Like when somebody tells you, hey, like stick with it. Or, you know, like even trust yourself. Maybe you might get the voice that says, you know what, I don't want to quit or I don't want to stop doing or pursuing this thing. And then to listen to that and own that, because sometimes it is a higher being that's speaking through either somebody else or through your own mind, and they're reminding you like, hey, like stick with it or keep going or whatever the case may be.
So strange, but it's true, especially when you're feeling at a low point, because I was feeling at a lower point. And just don't dismiss those little signs. It's like little nudges. It's little nudges, a simple conversation. Because I was feeling a little like worried and just thinking a lot, and then he sat there and we talked for a bit, and I took it in. I was like, oh, okay, you know, because I can talk about this stuff, you know, with friends, family, loved ones, and they always give me the best advice, and we as humans, like, we'll take it and we embrace it, but you know, it's people that we know.
It'll hit different when it's strangers.
But when you have a stranger. And he's not a stranger, but he's my, you know, we don't talk.
It's not somebody who's a family member, a loved one, or a friend who you can just kind of brush off. Because I think a lot of times when we think somebody loves us, we'll just brush off like the good things when they say to us, like, oh, they just love us.
Yeah, like
whatever
the
it is.
positive feedback.
Yeah, they're just like, oh, okay, it's, you know, they have to say that. They're like, you know, that's my sister, that's my mother, that's my. But like sometimes, like when we hear it from other people, it just resonates more. Yeah. But that doesn't take away from, you know,
when you have some exactly. Like I've learned to kind of embrace that as well and not overthink it.
Me too.
But I think when you have something that's out of the ordinary or that feels kind of like, out of the ordinary, and it's like, oh, okay, let me take this for a second. Great. And it's happened to me a couple times at work. It's usually at work. You know, I had a guest I was working. I was just like, I don't want to be here, man. Whatever. I was going through some stuff, and I had a guy that was like, oh, your name is Justin. He said a joke is like, oh, you're just in. A lot of people tell me like you're just in the right place, like you're where you need to be.
Oh wow.
Super random ass guy.
Yeah.
I was just trying to give him a card or whatever, and then he was like, oh, Justin, that's a cool name because like you're just where you need to be right now.
Wow. Grace.
And he was like, just remember that, like you're exactly where you need to be. You're just right where you need to be. And I was like, oh,
crazy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
change your mood instantly, probably.
it made me think a little bit more. Like, oh, like okay, like
you're right.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
Because sometimes
keep on keeping on.
Keep on keeping on.
Facts.
I don't know, man. Yeah, life is crazy.
It is.
And
embrace life's crazy.
And you just have to literally just take it, feel what you feel, but just really absorb. You really got to absorb the world.
Yeah.
And with that, I
100%.
think will help people a lot.
Yeah.
Because if you don't, if you're just very arrogant,
like stop waiting to be happy in a way. Stop putting your happiness off for like that job or that relationship or that career, and to start harnessing those feelings, because happiness, like any other emotion, is a feeling you can harness at any time. And we think that if we're happy, that our drive for certain things just diminishes, but in reality, your drive for those things just comes from a better place. You probably pursue it with a lot more passion because you feel a lot better about yourself, and it's not a lot of stress.
Yeah,
if that makes sense. Not a lot of tension. That's absolutely right, man. Embrace that you are exactly where you need to be, and that you trust you'll get to where you need to be, and that eventually everything will work out the way you want it to. So,
2022. Anything else before we wrap it up?
More blessings, more health, more prosperity to everybody who's listening. Much love from the both of us.
Yes.
And I'll sort of wrap it up for me.
Yeah. All right, guys. Thank you so much for watching and for listening. Yeah. And
we'll continue to bring you more on a weekly basis.
This is episode 3.
Yep.
More to come.
Many more. Yeah,
more to come.
100%.
So thank you guys so much for watching, for listening, and to the next one.
Yes,
Goodbye.
sir.